Think like a DJ.
On this episode of Think Like a DJ Mixtape Podcast, we continue exploring February's Black Dreamcatchers theme with Mindshift Coach, author, and keynote speaker Rochelle Parker, as she provides us a peek into Black women's mental health birthed by fearless femininity, and shares her personal best practices for Black women to heal and reveal their wealth. Get ready to conquer your fear of success and anxiety of failing by shifting your mind and manifesting your most abundant destiny. As a man thinketh, so is he. As a woman thinketh, so is she. What are your deepest thoughts preventing you from becoming limitless? Get ready to join Rochelle Parker, the Kingdom Mindshift Coach, and align yourself with Black excellence. As you stand behind the turntables of life, ride the wave, and prepare to learn how to rock your life party. If your life were a party, how many would RSVP? If you only live once, will your one party become a party of one? This episode is sponsored by Intuition Productions. We celebrate this Black History Month upholding February's theme, Black Dreamcatchers, featuring young Black success stories in entrepreneurship, politics, Black art, and Hollywood filmmaking. Entrepreneurs, artists, and intellects. Join me at the Next 400 Dream Conclave Virtual Conference, Wednesday and Thursday, February 24th and 25th, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, as we remix the future of Black life, family, focus, finance, and philanthropy. Heal ourselves and reveal our wealth. For your entertainment, get ready to dance to the beats of 2 live women DJs, mind-shifting keynote speakers, and intelligent discussion that is sure to enlighten and inspire. Register for free on Eventbrite.com or find us on Facebook at the Next 400 Dream Conclave.
The Next 400 Dream Conclave.
Dreams are made to be achieved.
Intuition Production.
I'm here with a very special guest, a friend of mine, someone that I spent some high school years with, and just an amazing person, amazing young woman that's doing amazing things, groundbreaking things in her entrepreneurial endeavors. The one, the only, the incomparable, Rochelle Parker. What's going on with you, Rochelle?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, so I guess for those of us who just meeting you for the first time, tell us a little bit about your early years, your personal background, your education, and give us a bit of a roadmap of how you got your start as a Black woman in entrepreneurship.
Oh man, you can go all which ways with that one. First really started, I always knew that I always wanted to work for myself. Ever since I was little, I always had the mentality of I didn't want to work for nobody. But the reality was, in the midst of all that, you had to know that you have to first learn how to work for somebody so you can learn to work for yourself, because you have to know the hard work that will go into it. And so for me, I always knew that as a kid growing up. My mom said I was always somebody that always had to do things on her own. It was always thriving to do things on her own. Always had the mindset of I couldn't work for people in my earlier years. And then I started to grow and develop. Even when I was in high school, I always had the go-getter mentality. I had the mentality of, coming from the background of a single parent mother, raised without a father, 5 kids in the house with 5 different personalities. I think that, when you seeing that as a kid and growing up, that you are living in the type of means that you're living in, you're saying to yourself, like, this is not the life you want. So what can you do better to not live that life and to be in that lifestyle? Not that it was bad, it was just the state of being that we was in. And so I knew in my mind, being the youngest of 5, that I wanted to do something different. The funny part in growing up, before I attended Juneau High School, I went to Hamilton High School, and which is so funny, a lot of people don't know this, but I repeated the 9th grade. I repeated the 9th grade growing up. And in that moment, when I repeated the 9th grade, I had to make a decision. Either I was going to allow myself to stay in this position, or I was going to allow myself to move on. Now, the funny part was, at the time, the principal that we had, his name was Dr. Mac Williams. At the time, he had a discussion with my mom, and he said that either she either going to be a menace to society, because they was attempting to kick me out of school during that time. And so I had to make a decision. My mom had to make a decision as well, that I wanted something more for my life. And so at that very moment, I knew that I needed more for my life. And so my education background as I grew, I was determined. So when I went to Juneau, I graduated from high school early. I graduated from high school at the age of 17. I was determined. I went to day and night school. People didn't know that it was still working a job. So as time moved on through the process, let's fast forward, I went on to college, and I knew that, you know, growing up as a kid, you see these teachers, they say, go to college, get a degree. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with it. But when you come to find that the degree is just a paper, you kind of like, and they telling you, you're going to make all this money. And, you know, I was one of them kids that always had to go back and forth, always had a mouth. As I remember telling one teacher, like, you lying. Like, you ain't even making that much money. So what you so that was the thing that we grew around. Go to college, get your degree. So I went off to college when I was 17. And when I went off to college, I made up in my mind, like, this cannot be. I went to school for business, and I always knew that I wanted to own my own business. I always knew that business would be a part of my life. And so I was just like, man, I'm done. So I left college, and but I still allow people, thoughts, ideas, and ideology to deter me to do what I really wanted to do, because of once being a kid raised in the church all her life. I said raised, not grew. So raised in the church all my life, and then fast forward dealing with all that and still trying to find who I was. It was so much during that time. Then let's fast forward. I left college. Then I went back into college, got my associate's degree, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I got an associate's degree. Okay. But I do believe that you should always get some type of trainings and things of that while you're embarking on whatever journey, whatever purpose that God has created for you to do. Then fast forward, got into the adulthood, been a young woman, got into my adulthood. I could never really keep a job.
Yeah. Why is that?
So I could never really keep a job because my mind has always been, I didn't want to work for nobody. So I could never really keep a job. The longest I ever worked, Walmart, let me tell y'all, Walmart, shout out to Walmart, okay? Walmart is the place of growing and development. So when I worked at Walmart, that was the longest job that I ever worked. And I made it for a year.
So tell me more about your business now as a Kingdom Mindset Coach and a speaker. What are you doing right now, and what is your message?
And my message is live on purpose. My message is be on purpose. Don't allow your mind. Everything starts with your mind. Me being a Kingdom Mind Coach, Mindshift Coach, I deal with your mind first. And then we deal with everything else, because everything starts with a thought. It said that so as a man think in his heart, so it is. Then it tells us to no longer be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Why? Because daily our mind is always going through many thoughts. It's going through so much. And so before I can act on anything, my mind have to change. And me being a speaker on top of that, that's the thing. I empower. I make sure that when I'm dealing with clients and speaking, that you leave impacted, that you leave, that you know that this is part of your process, that you have to make a decision. Everything deals with decisions, and it first deals with your mind. So if you, wherever your mind is, your body will follow. So if you don't think you can do it, then you won't do it, right? So everything starts with your mind. That is my message for people, to really live on purpose and to really drive home, to not allow your ideas, your thoughts, the ideologies that was told to you to derail you from what God has really created you to do on this earth.
So you spoke on repeating the ninth grade, and I was a little kid that was very rambunctious. I really had a lot of early childhood trauma from my dad passing at 4 years old when I was 4. And I went to public school all my life and almost failed the first grade. And later on in my life, I ended up getting skipped a grade, to where, as you know, I became an early high school admit at 12, and then I went to college when I was 16. So there are kids out there like us who repeat grades, who almost repeat grades, who have challenges academically in this archaic education system that we live under in America. What do you think it really took for you? How did you spin your poverty into prosperity? How does a woman go from repeating the ninth grade to going on to start a business that talks about mindfulness, mind shifts, and mindset, and living on purpose? How did that all manifest? What does it really take? What did it really take for you to make that happen?
When I repeated the ninth grade, I was like in shame and embarrassment. Everything was clouding me. Everything that you thought that could cloud my mind was clouding my mind. But when he told me, like, I had to make, it was like the principal, Mr. McWilliams, in that office said, you got to make a decision. And that would change my life in that moment from where I'm at today, that I had to learn that everything that we do starts with a decision and a choice. And so through the process, when I repeated the ninth grade, man, it was just too much. And I was like, I don't want to live my life like this. I had to, in that moment, make a decision. And some in me, I'm talking about every fiber of my being said, you got to change. So I was determined when I left Hamilton that I mainly really skipped to another grade, because at 17 I graduated. And so it was like senior year come, and I was like, I'm about to hit it. I'm about to do everything in my power. That to know that something in you has a willpower. Some in you will keep you to keep going. No matter where you at, everything begins with a decision.
Come on now, you going deep. So I guess from your side of the table, tell me, if you weren't a speaker, if you weren't a mind shift coach doing what you're doing currently right now, what would you be doing today?
I will actually, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing today, I would probably be going into the schools teaching the kids.
And trying to help the kids get, they mind right.
Yeah, and I would help them with practical and let them live on purpose. Teach them what it is to live and breathe, and train and develop them about life practical situations, and allow them to grow and develop, and help them understand that life is a process. That if you choose to go to college, great. If you choose that don't mean that you're less of a person because you made a decision not to go to college, but you do got to make a decision to do something. And whatever that is, live on purpose. Don't allow nobody to deter you, no matter if it's your mama, your daddy, your pastors, your cousins, your uncle. Don't allow anybody to deter you from the goal and the plan that God has already put in your life. That's what I will be doing. Giving back, giving them the tools that a lot of teachers in my day didn't give me.
What would your response be to critics or folks who say, "Oh, this is just soft data. We don't really need to teach mindfulness. We don't really need to teach as a man thinketh, so is he. We don't really need to start with that. We just need to give these kids a trade, or we need to get them working." What's your response to some of the folks who antithetical to some of the things that you believe personally?
Let's put it out here on the table. Let's think statistically. If you really look at what's going on, they do mindfulness right now in schools and in any job that you do now, because they understand that if my mind is not right, forget what the critics say, because you're going to always have critics. But statistically, if you look at society right now, everybody have a mindful room. Even in colleges now, they have mindful rooms, because they understand that life is overwhelmed. You have so many triggers. And on top of that, when you're living, especially, and this is the thing, if you know in life that everything that you do is servanthood, you're going to get overwhelmed sometimes. Life is going to hit you. So guess what? You need their minds to be right. Why? It's the mind that can shift and move things. When I make a decision in my mind, I know I can do it, regardless of what critics say, because you're going to have them. But statistics say that everything begins with the mind, because if you look around the world, everybody having a mindful room, even in jobs now, because especially about what's went on since last year coming, our pandemic, and people's minds was suicidal. Their minds was going crazy because they didn't have their mind shift. Not only that, they didn't have the physical needs. It's vice versa. If I could change your mind, then I can help you change everything else. But if your mind doesn't change, then how can I help you change everything else? I could talk to you, but I know that you need a need. It's just like me walking past you and saying, "Oh, he good." Sometimes they look at people that have $1 million and $1 billion. And a lot of them people, if you have conversation with a lot of millionaires and billionaires, some of them say, if I could just have my peace of mind, if I could just, they're worried about who's going to use them and trust. If I can just have a peace of mind, because you can have everything in the world, but if you don't have a peace of mind, then what? If you don't have a clarity of mind, then what? A lot of times when you go on vacations, a lot of times people go on vacations because they're trying to clear their mind. And then after they come from vacation, now they done got their thoughts clear. Now everything become clear to you. Why? Because your mind is important to everything else and every decision that you will make in life.
Yeah, so I really identify with your story, being one of a huge family. I'm one of 6 children. I'm the second oldest of 6. You the youngest of 5. You working with young people now today, being attached to them now and helping folks shift their mind and really get a kingdom mindset. What are some of the challenges that you experienced or that you transcended as a younger person that you still see are relevant today with the young people today in 2021?
One of the things that's relevant is you have a generation that is like no nonsense. This generation, and we was the same way. It was just like, oh, you not go. They'll push the button. We push the button. We went against the grain. They will go against the grain. They ask questions why more than ever. The things that I see prevalent, we went against the grain. Just like I can remember, this might make, I don't know if people remember this in the paper when we marched from Juneau to the school board.
I ain't forget.
We marched. Why? Because we knew that there was something that we wanted. Even though it wasn't about keeping the school open, that was the goal. But it was the really point for them to see that us as people, as young people, can come together and make some things happen. That it doesn't stop. And same thing with this generation today. They're marching. They're coming out. They're speaking. They're getting bold. They're getting courageous. They're making say, hey, I'm here and you ain't gonna shut my mouth. And that's what I see in our generation and the generation today. Now, we got some differences, but in our generation today, and what I see, we ain't holding back no punches. We're rising and we're saying, no, we're not going to take that. Yes. And we're saying yes mean yes and no mean no. That's what I'm seeing in this generation today that we did in our generation. We fought, we walked. We didn't care we didn't care if it was all night. We stayed up. We didn't care what it took, but we wanted our voice to be heard. This generation is similar to our generation. That's what I see as some similarities. Like, listen, my voice is going to be heard. And I am going to make sure that you hear my voice. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to say it loud on top of the lungs that, listen, I'm here and I'm not going nowhere.
Hey, so you got that fire going. So I've been checking you out. I've been watching some of your sessions that you do with women where you'll have them just open up. You talk about your personal story, some of the things that you've overcome, and you really shift people's mind. You really get them into a space of belief. And you really, from what I've seen, your voice is able to crack the matrix code in a room. People may be not able to really express themselves in certain rooms, but you can reach people in a way that I haven't seen before. When did you first know that you were able to uplift people with your words? And did you always believe in yourself like you do today?
First, to answer that question, no, I didn't always believe in myself. Then when I knew really I had the voices, when I started in 6th grade, right? 6th grade was like probably one of my best years. And in 6th grade, I was a part of the group. You know, they used to have forensics and they don't have that no more. You know, we used to have a lot of different things. They used to have forensics and I was in the poetry department. I still don't forget it. You know, I won state in poetry. I was number, you know, they call you by number B15. And so I'll never forget that number. But I'll never forget that number. When they called my name, they went
What
crazy.
number they call again?
My
What number
school
was
went
it?
Crazy. B15. B15. Boy, they called that number. They went crazy. And, you know, it was just at that moment when I went into that room and I did a Harriet Tubman poem, them people stood up as if it was a million people in that room. And I would never forget when they called me, I was literally the last person that they called. And I was nervous. And I was like, whoo, I was shaking. At the same time, I'm praying like, Lord, please let me touch their hearts, because my whole goal is to make sure that I can penetrate the heart of man. It doesn't matter how well a person can speak or how they articulate their words, or, you know, they may got the degree so they can give, you know, expertise words and they can talk this way and they can be this way. But when you have the gift and the anointing to speak, you could penetrate the heart of man. And that has always been my attitude, that I'm here to serve people. But in the midst of serving them, I want to penetrate their hearts. And so when I spoke and we was in the finals, I mean, them people stood up like it was nobody's business. And I didn't expect it. I just wanted them to feel everything that I was speaking about here at Tubman. I wanted them to understand her story, because when you speak, you have a story. You have a story to tell that people can relate to, that people may cry, that people may say, I didn't know. People may engage. And so that was my thing. And that's when I knew that I had the gift of speaking. You know, friends, when I was in 6th grade, I used to always talk to some friends, and I had multicultural friends. I had white, Asian. One of my best friends was Asian. Her name was Nancy Young. Never forget it. She was one of my best friends in 6th grade. And I remember this one girl named Ashley. Used to be me, her, and Ashley. Ashley was Caucasian. Nancy was Asian, then me. And we used to all hang. And Ashley said to me, I'll never forget, we was in science class, verbatim. And she was going through a rough time. And I was talking to her. And she said, Rochelle, you always lift me up. And she was going through some stuff at home. But I never understood why, like, every person that I would ever meet, they would say, man, you encourage me. Man, you build me. Man, you make me think. And I didn't think nothing of it, because me, just little old me, just being me. And I would just speak life to them. I always knew. And that was the moment that I knew that I had the gift to speak. That was the moment. That was the very moment. But did I always believe in myself? Absolutely not. I didn't always believe that I had the gift. I didn't always believe in what God gave me, because I had my own insecurities, my doubts, my fears, the things that I didn't believe in myself, coming from the background that I came from. Who won't want to listen to a girl raised in a house with a divorced mom and 5 with other siblings living on welfare? You know, a lot of people got their story. But the question is, do you plan on changing that story? So that's when I knew I had to give. And as time began to progress, I started to believe in myself. But I didn't always believe in myself. Absolutely not.
So I just watched Harriet, and I got I remember one of the lines they said in the movie that I want to ask you about. It was a line in there that said, "What's a man to a woman touched by God?" And we talk about patriarchy in this country. We talk about how the woman's voice has been silenced, especially not just in the Black community, but in this culture, this American context in general, where male dominance is a part of our culture. There was a line where one of the actresses said, "What's a man to a woman touched by God?" And that's what I think of when I'm hearing you speak, is that the voice of a woman can transcend that patriarchal glass ceiling, if it's an anointed voice. And that's what I'm getting from you. I want you to kind of say an encouraging word to other young people, or maybe even to yourself. Like, what would you tell your 16-year-old self if you could speak to her today? What would you say to her, just as a uplift, as a rising tide lifts all ship? What are some of the things that you would gift over to your 16-year-old self and to 16-year-old women, young girls listening to this today?
I would tell them, first, take down the ideas, the ideologies, and the images. I would tell them to take down the images of what they see, because what you see right now, you won't always be. So take down your images. Take down the images of what you see in social media and the flags of people, because a lot of times we are so consumed by the images of what we see. Oh, we see a couple. Oh, they look so happy. But behind closed doors, you never know what's going on. So let's pull the images away. You see that girl with a body, you like, man, her body banging. I want my body to be like. Pull down the images. I would say pull down your images. That's what I would tell the 16-year-old self and the 16-year-old women. Pull down the images that you are more than what you think. You are more than your curves, your hips, your thighs, and your lips. You are more than what you think about yourself when moments get hard and you come from a background where you come from a single parent mother, or you come from a single parent father background. You are more than statistics. You are more than the images of what you see on social media. You are more than the ideal of what you think shall happen. You are more than the ideal of what marriage should be like and just be. I would tell them to image themselves fearfully, wonderfully made, dynamic, beautiful, amazing, that I would never have to compare myself to anybody else but who I'm created to be. So take down the image, young girl. Take down the image, the 16-year-old girl that don't believe in themselves, and when doubts and insecurities and fears come in to rise in, take down the image. The next thing I would tell myself and the 16-year-old, take down the idols of things, the things that you may worship. You may worship that Kim Kardashian. You may worship that Cardi B. You may worship that. Take down the idols, because of what you see may not be what it really is. Take down the item of wearing your long weaves, and nothing wrong with it, but take down the item that I have to be this way. I got to go get my hair sewed in and pay $200 to $150 per thing. And take down the idol of I got to have the most flyest things, and I got to wear the nice shoes. Take down them images and the idols. And the last thing I would say, take down your thoughts. Let not your thoughts consume you. Really believe in yourself. Find things that you know that you love, and not something that you just like, because love and like is two different things. See, like is temporary, but love can last, because when it gets hard and tough, you can still love what you do. See, when you like something, it's just like a pair of J's. You'll stand in line for them pair of J's, but if them pair of J's stay in your closet for more than a month and years, that means you just like the idea of me getting a pair of J's. But when you love something, you can go through the hardships of it. When it gets tough in school and you want to quit because you know that I got to get through this, you got all the love and the support around you. So cast down every thought and every imagination that you thought, the thoughts, the shouldas and the couldas and the wouldas. But I would tell the 16-year-old me that, baby, cast down every thought, that you are stronger than what you think. You believe in what you can believe in. Allow no doubt, allow no fear, allow nobody to tell you different, but stand strong in who you are. Believe in what you say and go ahead and be courageous. That's what I would tell the 60-year-old me and the 60-year-old women that would listen to this.
See now you going there. Now I'm about to go there with you, because you're playing around now. You cannot play with people like this. because I want to talk about fearlessness.
One of the most memorable parts of my conversation with Rochelle was when she talked about fearlessness, how she used to fear what people would say if they knew the truth about her. I love how she made plain that her mistakes are part of her story, but they are not her in totality. We've all experienced the fear of perception. Like Rochelle said, I don't have to live in fear, I can live fearless. You may not be where you gonna be, but like Rochelle said, you sure ain't where you used to be. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get back in the mix.
One of the things I learned over the last 5 years since I had my son is to be a fearless father. You know, fail forward fast and frequently. If you're going to fail, then just get it done and learn from it. Move on. You know what I'm saying? Don't make the same mistake twice, but fail frequently enough. You know, try things and, you know, exceed your own expectations and grow and develop from where you are into the person that you want to be. See it in your mind's eye and then manifest it. From your side, like let's say, what was one of the biggest fears you overcame in life? And how did overcoming that fear, how did it impact your success?
One of the bigger fears I came in life was hiding what I've been through. I used to tell people bits and pieces of my story because I used to fear what people would think, or I used to fear what they would say about me. I never really moved forward in a lot of different things because I was scared. Like, oh my God, I don't want to tell people my story. What they gonna say about a girl that repeated the 9th grade? What they gonna say about a woman that had 2 abortions? What they gonna say to a woman that sold drugs? What they gonna say? So I used to fear what people used to think and say if I really told them the truth of Rochelle. That was once my truth, but it's no longer my truth. It's part of what I've been through, but it's part of my story, but it's not who I am, but it was just a part of me. What would they say to a girl that almost got shot? What would they say to a girl that was homeless and was living out of a hotel in a car? What would they say? What would they say to somebody that ran from the very thing that she was created to do, and she didn't want people to really know her story, so she'll give them bits and pieces and hide her truth? What would they say to a woman that didn't always love herself and didn't always have what would they say? So there was parts of me I wouldn't give. I used to be so scared to tell people what I did, you know, especially when I had the abortions. You know, what would they say about a woman that had 2 abortions? And then I'm like, oh, you know, and so I've been through that. Caliported me, that freed me, that made me realize that my story is to be a blessing to somebody else, that I don't have to live in fear, but I can live fearless. The problem today is that we are so scared of what people think and feel about what we do and say and how we do it. That was one of my biggest fears, and I overcame that. So when I started my coaching programs and when I started speaking, I had to realize, like, this is your life, Rochelle. Like, people, if you gonna hide this, what else would you hide? What I had to say about somebody was that was a compulsive liar, that was a manipulator. Like, if you hide these parts of you, how would they know you? How would they get to know the real you? Because people are looking for the authenticity of an individual. They're not looking for the facade. They don't care nothing about your credentials and your degrees and things like that. They want to know, can you reach them in such a way? Can you penetrate their heart? And I had to get to the point that I had to take off layers and layers and layers of stop being fearful and learn how to be fearless. That my story is a fearless story. That look at me today, I'm not what I used to be. I'm not what I've been through. So now I can tell my story and tell women, hey, don't teach your kids to be fearful, but teach yourself to be fearless. Don't be afraid to open your mouth and tell your story. Don't be afraid to tell people the truth. You know, I remember I started this group some time ago. It's called What's Your Truth? And it said to no longer become what you once was, but become the masterpiece God created you to be. I live by that. What's your truth? Because can't nobody tell your truth better than you can. They may have been a part of it once upon a time, but it doesn't mean that's who you still are.
And what does that do for your bottom line in your business? How does overcoming all of these challenges and all of this inertia and all of this wind at your face, how do you get wind at your back? What does that all do for you when you overcome these things? You looking at your business, looking at your bottom line, looking at your conferences, looking at your seminars, your coaching program. What has that fearlessness, what has it allowed you to do in business?
Man, it allowed me to catapult in such a way. I'm reaching women. And this was crazy. I reach women that's beyond my age. Like, I'm talking to women that's in their 50s and 60s and 70s that that has been broken for so long. Like let's really dive, right? Because we're transparent. So let's be transparent. You have women that's in their 50s. I'm dealing with women that's in their 50s that has been broken. I'll never forget, I had a client. She's literally 52. She was still holding on to the damage that was done from her when she was as a kid. And she didn't know how
At
to
50
get
something
past
years
it.
old.
At 52 years old. At 52. At 52. And I was amazed because I said, God, you keep using me. And this is crazy. These women are much older than me. They years older than me. And I'm sitting there like, this is crazy. And I got young women. And the amazing thing that I look at it, not because the age bracket, I look at it as because it doesn't matter. Age does not make you mature. Age has nothing to do with maturity. Age has everything to do with growth, development, in your process in your life. Just because it's just like just because a girl may be 20 and a woman 52, as they say, you got young fools and old fools. But they still broken at the age of 52 because whatever age she was still broken at, she was still living at 52, still living at a 14-year-old mentality. She was just in a grown woman's body. So I try to tell people that it doesn't matter wherever the trauma started. That's where you in a grown person body still living that. That's why you see a lot of these young kids today, and even us, we come from the same background. Parents not at home, working 2 to 5. Try to figure out what your siblings gonna eat. Making sure the house clean. Your mama tired, working 3 to 4 jobs. And today, the generation today doing the same thing. They're raising their siblings, and so they're trying to figure out. So now they hit 25. Let's talk about now they hit 25, and they still living at the age of 13. Because I'm 25, but I'm still living like I'm 13. I want to be nurtured. I want to be loved. So they're looking for the very things that they didn't either get growing up. So it's like I'm trying to still live my life. That's why you see a lot of older men or older women acting in such a way. You like, dude, ain't you? We always want to jump the gun. Like, dude, ain't you like 40 something? You still acting like that? Why? Let's go back to where the trauma started. Because if the trauma started at that age, they didn't live. They didn't have a childhood. So now I'm at 40 trying to live my best life because I didn't live it when I was 13, when I was 10, when I was 9, because I had to take care of responsibility that was not my responsibility. And now I got to live in this at 40 some years old. That's what catapulted me. That's what keeps me going with my clients, because my story tells them, listen, I had trauma too. So guess what? But this is how I got free from my trauma. Not that I would always forget it. Not that I don't reflect, but it doesn't mean that I stay there. That lady, I tell you, that lady had my client, she talked to me and she got free just off a conversation. She got free just off a conversation with me. And this was my 15-minute shift her chat. In that 15 minutes, she got free. I talked to her today and she do not sound the same that she sound when I first initially talked to her.
You saving souls.
That's all I'm doing. Like I want you to be free and I want you to live free. One of my clients right now, she in the beginning when she took my first 7-day challenge, she was in a dark place. She's been with me. She's been on every last one of my 7-day challenge. I just recently got done with the 30-day pray and shift. In that 30 days, we've been shifting our minds, our health, and our bodies. That woman have lost 30 pounds. Where she was physically, she was like 200 and some pounds. She done dropped all the way down. Her goal was 175. She done dropped all the way down to 170 from where she was. She was 200 and some pounds. So all the weight that you carry, not just in your physical, listen, it's every part of you. It's your mental, your spiritual, and your physical. Her mental had to change in order for her body to follow. Now her body saying, listen, I'm getting ready to lose. Now her spiritual part has changed too. The weight that she was carrying physically was also carried in her mental and her spirit. And now she's glowing. If you see my client today, you would never know what she looked like back then because she stayed the course. This is what people have to realize. You got to stay accordingly to the process. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you're looking for a quick thing, it's not going to happen. But they was determined. And my 50-year-old, and they all about in the same age rack. But it was the first client that I told you about, she was just changed through a phone call.
So you moving culture for others. You bringing more women and more people, men included, towards the light. and getting them all
Yeah.
cleaned up, fixing them up, and showing them that they had an agency to do this, on their own time, that it's going to be a heavy lift, but over the course of time, those muscles get stronger. I think that is so powerful. I wanted to know from your side, how has being a Black woman entrepreneur, having that identity as a Black woman, how has that personally impacted your business? Has it been good? Has it been bad? Has it been indifferent?
Man, honestly, being a Black woman entrepreneur personally, it has its ups and downs, but it's been amazing because I understood that it's a process to this entrepreneurship as being a Black woman. It has been amazing for me. Like I said, I can sit here and talk about all the ups and downs. I could talk about the indifferences, but when you sign up for purpose, catch this. When you sign up for purpose, you're signing up to be a solution and not a problem. So when you understand that a purpose is a solution and not a problem, you will no longer think you're being an entrepreneur as a Black woman or anybody entrepreneur. You will understand that God made you an asset and not a liability on this earth. So will you have trials and tribulations? Absolutely. But every day when you wake up, when you understand that when you get up, somebody is a solution. You are the solution to their problem. You'll stop looking at things as problems and start saying, how can I fix it? And not what's wrong, because God made you to be an asset and not a liability. He made you to be a resource and not a liability. So for me, it's been
Come
amazing.
on now, you going deep. I think I think that a lot of young people in particular, they don't know that they have a lot of the skills that it's going to take to be successful over a lifetime. They don't know that they already possess the power to move culture just by the enthusiasm of youth. Being a young person, having all of that energy, that can turn over a leaf, that could turn over a rock, that could turn over a scenario, a country. Everything that's done in this country as far as shifting the culture over the last even year has been a youth-led movement. It's really kind of 21 and under, not 21 and up. So kind of from your side of the table, tell me, how would you describe, I guess, Black women naturally? What are the three characteristics that Black women naturally have that they might even be unaware of that has served you well as a mind shift coach? What are some of the things that you naturally hold on to, that you were born and gifted with as a Black woman, holding that identity, that has really been beneficial to you and served you well?
Number one, influence. You got to influence as a Black woman. Oh man, we have a power of influence like nobody's business. You have the power of influence. You have the power to empower people. And the last thing, the third thing, is that you got the power of being a nurturer. What do I mean by that? You have the power to serve people. Some Black women don't realize that you have the power. When you have the power to influence in so many aspects that sometimes Black women don't even know. You got the power to influence your husband. You have the power to influence your business part. You got the power to influence people. And if you don't use that power influence, you can, whatever you choose to do with that power of influence, you can use it for good or bad. But you got the power of influence. Women hold a key like nobody's business. They can change the world with the power of their words. That's another thing that I would add to that. You said top 3, but top 4 will be power of your words.
Mm-hmm. That women can speak things into existence.
Yes. They have a strong power of their words. And if they don't realize that, you can either speak life or death. One thing that I tell a lot of my clients and just people that I may have conversations with, always ask yourself before you speak out your mouth, is what you about to say life or death? Or what you about to say going to help them or hurt them? It's something about the power of our words. And I tell people all the time, you have the power of your words. So however you use it, it will influence people.
Come on now, Doc. You got me sweating now, because you talking about uplifting people from where they are. Going to where the downtrodden humanity, where they live, where those folks are. Me living in Africa, having lived in Kenya, and understanding that people at the bottom, sometimes they just need a word. You talk about the power of words. Sometimes they just need a good word, and they just need uplift. And that just changes somebody's whole existence, for you to be able to tell somebody and they believe you when you say that you worthy and you actually worth life. You actually, not speaking death onto people, not criticizing and ostracizing and bringing people down, but giving them this positive beacon of hope, but in an authentic way, telling them the truth, telling them the things that God said about them, that they the head and they not the tail, that they're going to be the lender and not the borrower, as above, so below, that they're going to move up. So those type of words, we do have the ability to shift and move the vibration around us with just the movement of our vocal cord. So I think that's really important for young people to realize, is that they don't need empowerment, because from my side of the table, I believe empowerment is the assumption of the absence of power. For me to empower you mean that you don't got nothing. But if I just repower you like a battery on an iPhone, I just charge you back up, plug you up to the machine of achievement, then we can do some damage because you already have the enthusiasm and the power that it's going to take. You just need to be repowered. So what you're doing for me is women's repowerment. It's really not women's empowerment from my side, my language that I like to use. Because with repowerment, all you're doing is just giving them back the tools that they were born with that they somehow lost along the way. Or they got a little cobwebs on them or a little dust. So let's keep on moving. So I'm gonna ask you about the 7 steps in the book, and then I'm gonna ask you to complete a sentence, and then we're gonna play a quick game, and then we're gonna get you off to what's most important, because there's more people that need to hear your voice today besides me. So of the 7 steps in the book, Think Like a DJ, of the 7 steps to spin poverty into prosperity, which one did you feel like most resonated with you, and why?
Act on faith. That one resonated with me because it really takes faith to do everything. It takes faith to build what you're going to build, a legacy. You know, everything that you do takes faith. Faith to trust individual to help you and to push you. Faith to know that people have the best things at heart. Faith to know that God called you to do what you created to do, even when it gets tough. It's the act of faith. When I just a background before I really dived into me being an entrepreneur full time, I had to really take an act of faith because they fired me from my job. They fired me. And in the midst of firing me, I caught COVID. In the midst of the COVID, God was teaching me how to believe. And faith is not what you see, it's what you don't see. And a lot of times people, one thing I've learned about this faith walk is that you gotta live like it's a normal day. Like no worries, but it really takes your mind to get there because everything is a process. So you gotta you accomplish this part, so now you gotta accomplish more because it just don't stop right there. You gotta keep growing and developing in areas in your life. So faith is not what you see. Faith is like getting up every day like you ain't got no worries in the world. And I know that may be hard for people to grasp, but that's what faith is. He said, don't worry about food, clothes, and shelter. Like if you worry about it, he said, why pray and worry? Why pray and worry? So if I'm praying and I'm saying, God, I trust you, then I shouldn't worry about how the bill gonna get paid. It doesn't mean that you won't go through trials and tribulations, but it's how you respond in the midst of it all. Do you really trust? It takes faith for everything. It takes faith to trust. When you don't know what it's going to look like, it takes faith to keep moving when it looks like it's tough. Faith when it's time to quit, you want to quit and you want to give up. Like maybe this not for me. Maybe I need to go back and every time I try to apply for a job, I never got hired. And he said to me, you got to work this business just like you work a 9-to-5. So it takes faith. That's what resides with me, that this took all faith to do what I was created to do. And it's going to continue to take faith to walk out.
Come on now, you talking big. That's that drop your first record, chapter 2 of Think Like a DJ, Act on Faith. You can pick a tempo, you can make a decision and write your vision and create a dream statement and get a vision board and all of that. That's just picking a tempo. That's just visualization and picturization, seeing it before you be it. But when you get to the turntables of life, you better have that record ready. You got to drop that first record. You got to believe. You got to act on faith. You got to move the meter towards the direction of your desire. If you know that you want to rock this party, you got to drop your first record. You just can't sit there talking about, I want to start this business. I want to get this thing up off the ground. You got to go out there and get your first client. You got to have your first seminar. You got to do your first public address. That's what we mean by acting on faith and dropping your first record. I want to move on into your vision. I want you to complete this sentence. Complete the sentence. This sentence says, my vision for the next 400 years for Black people is
to create a legacy and create a legacy to leave a history.
Because we know where we've been for the last 400 years. We know, what our history is. We trying to get to our destiny. We trying to manifest this thing and build something new.
Yep.
So I want to play a quick game with you. It's one more before we go, if you don't mind. It's in the mix. It's a rapid rotation game. It's a word association game. I just want you to tell me what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word Black excellence.
Powerful.
How about financial freedom?
Legacy.
Black wealth?
Unstoppable.
Come on out of Black wealth. They can't stop the money train.
Unstoppable.
What that high school, what that song used to say back in high school, back then they didn't want me. Now I'm hot, they all on me.
Want me, now I'm hot, they all on me. Mike Jones. Oh my God.
Black wealth. Come on now. How about leadership? What you say?
Come back to
Purpose.
that one. Live.
How about fulfillment?
Unexplainable.
Give me more on that. Fulfillment. What is that?
Unexplainable. Just living unapologetic, unexplainable in your fulfillment without questions, without doubt, without insecurity.
And that leads me to destiny. What does destiny mean to you?
It never stops.
Because that destiny gonna lead us to that leadership. What about we back on leadership? Leadership.
Oh man, that word is how can I say leadership? Boldness.
Boldness. Come on, ladies and gentlemen.
So I have a March Madness event coming up. It's called March into Your Madness, Mind, Health, and Beauty. We have Dynamic. We have Dr. Camille Garrison. We have the very own Rachel Vesquelas. We have the very own Calvi. And then we have the trainers Erica and Greg Thorne. And we have very own Lakeisha Russell. We got a therapist, we got a doctor, we got trainers, we got the Mindshift Coach herself, me, we got health and beauty, Rachel, and branding. And then we have a couple special guests that's coming in. We're only taking 50 women. And so you definitely want to get on. You can find the link on Facebook, be able to go to my website and sign up. Yes, with that, you get swag bags so you can swag it out all the way through the 30-day challenge. We're getting ready to shift your mind, your body, and your health. And so make sure you find me. I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching as well, where we don't chase the dream, but we chase the purpose. We have a lot of great things in store, but get ready for the March Madness. It's going to be crazy and phenomenal. We got doctors, trainers, therapists. It's going to be phenomenal. And so you can find more information on my social media pages, and you can click in and get your seat. Everything will be virtual. So while you sitting at home, you get a whole virtual
Oh
love.
boy, you on top of it. Now that's what's up. Thank you for your time, Rochelle.
Think like a DJ.
On the next Think Like a DJ Mixtape podcast, we continue exploring February's Black Dreamcatchers theme with Black woman, Hollywood filmmaker, and 2012 New Jersey Film Festival's best upcoming director, Miosha Bean, as she illustrates the power of Black film art and how her relationship with the ultimate creator, God, awards her the steadfast ability to craft new age horror films. Maybe the Black man doesn't always have to die first in a scary movie. Furthermore, she discusses how she got her start in Hollywood as a videographer for legendary 4-division world boxing legend, none other than the one, the only, Roy Jones Jr. Get ready to ride along the frequency of faith and amplify the wavelength of success as Miosha rolls out the red carpet for you, teaching you how she's embarked on a fulfilling life of Act 1, 2, and 3, and how you can do the same in your own personal life movie. Prepare to write your own success story and stick to the script. If your life were a party, how many would RSVP? If you only live once, will your one party become a party of what?
Think like a DJ.
Dreams are made to be achieved.
Intuition Production.
If you want it done right, get MD.